Now that we've finished phonetic symbols, we've got some rules for spoken English. Some pronunciation rules that are applied in spoken English. Some sounds are pronounced differently. In fact, sometimes we have some additions, sometimes some omissions, which makes it a bit difficult for non-native speakers sometimes because they are unaware of these spoken rules, and it also affects their listening skill, due to which they may fail to understand what the native speaker says. So we'll directly come to the rules. The first rule we've got today is when n sound is used before s or sh sound, a slight t can be added between them in spoken English in case n and s or n and sh aren't split by stress. Whenever we have n sound, and often we have either sound or we've got sh sound, one of these two. Then what happens in spoken English, after this n and before s, or after n and before sh, we add a t sound, a slight t sound, which is optional, of course, because that is spoken English rule. That's why some dictionaries like Cambridge write this t in italicized style, which means it is optional. Okay, examples for n plus like answer, cancel, fancy, ransack. See, answer, answer. Or, for example, cancel, cancel. Whatever the spelling is, we follow the sound. N plus s, again n plus s. So, they will pronounce it like this. American, because British is answer, American answer, and American answer. This rule can be applied, of course, in both British and American English, but I'm talking about the other differences. Like in American, it is a, British a, and r is silent in British English at the end. Just for example, we write the American phonetic symbols. For example, in American English, answer, t italicized because it's optional. Answer, answer, cancel, fancy, ransack. These were examples for n plus s. And examples for n plus sh, like ancient, nonchalant, confidential, potential. So a slight t is added after them. I mean after n and before s, or after n and before sh. That was the first sound for spoken English you studied today. The second sound, the second rule we've got is ch can be replaced with sh when preceded by k or n. Okay, by the way, before we come to second rule and the first rule, this rule is applicable when between n and s and between n and sh there is no stress, which means n is the ending of one syllable and s or sh is the start of the other syllable, and stress is on this syllable which starts in s or sh. In that case, this rule is not applied, this spoken English rules. Stress always breaks spoken English rules. They are then not applied. But if there is no stress between n and s or n and sh, then we can apply this rule. Anyways, rule number 2. Ch can be replaced with sh when preceded by k or n. If after ch sound comes either k sound or n sound, in that case we can replace ch with sh. Instead of ch, we can pronounce sh. For example, examples for ch plus k, like actually, lecture, and examples for n plus ch, like ch plus n, like bunch, launcher, etc. Lecture, picture, actually, launcher, bunch. We can use this in spoken English. And by the way, that is applied even in formal English nowadays, because in the very first listening of TOEFL by Peterson, you can find the word lecture pronounced as lecture in the listening section. And next rule is for American English. When WH is pronounced, WH is pronounced whenever at the beginning of words. It can be pronounced were in spoken American English, especially in strong form for emphasis. See, we studied that whenever we have WH at the beginning, H is silent and W is pronounced were. And we had 5 exceptions: who, whose, whore, and whole, in which words W is silent and H is pronounced her. And who, whom, whose, whole, and whore, in these words W is silent and H is pronounced her at the beginning. Apart from these 5 words, whenever we have WH at the beginning, W is pronounced were and H is silent. In which case, in American English, it can be pronounced opposite to the spelling in strong form for emphasis. Instead of, see, the spelling is WH, but they pronounce it whoa. They pronounce it whoa. And for reference, you can also see the new intercom series by IRC, at the beginning of which, in the teacher edition books, the WH question words are phoneticized like whoa. For example, when, what, where, when, why, whether, whisper, whine, etc. We can use this in spoken American English, but of course not necessarily. We can also pronounce them normally like when, what, where, when, why in both British American English. But in American English, along with were, we can also pronounce them whoa for emphasis maybe. And again, for reference, if you've seen the movie Hulk, in which the son says to his father, "What do you want?" Something like that, I think. What? And also in other movies, you may hear they pronounce these WH questions like whoa. In American movies especially. Alright, next rule is ing at the end of verbs and indefinite pronouns is pronounced n or n in spoken American English. It can then be spelled as in apostrophe. Another rule for American English. When we have ing at the end of verbs, and at the end of indefinite pronouns like something, anything, everything, nothing, etc. Not in other words, only verbs ending in ing and indefinite pronouns. In American English, G becomes silent and they pronounce this in like n or like n. In which case, in informal writing, they spell this ing like this. In apostrophe, which means G is abbreviated in writing. I mean contracted. But apart from this, before we also studied, if you remember, that whenever we have ing at the end, whatever the previous letter is, whether it is I, O, U, A, anything, whenever we have ing at the end, we had studied that n is pronounced and G becomes silent, like song, sing, playing, something, etc. That was one rule for both British American English. But now this rule, which is only for American English, G becomes silent and N is pronounced N, not and in ing, not every time in ing. And I is pronounced A or So at the end of verbs, when we have ing, and at the end of indefinite pronouns in American English, this ing is pronounced n or n. NG becomes silent. For example, eaten, making, something, everything, nothing, anything. And once again, for reference, if you go to the VOA English learning portion in the website of VOA, Voice of America, and also on the internet, if you go to the website or the radio channel, there are some English learning lessons, and they also present some stories. There you can find this rule, where they also spell in the written document, they spell it like IN apostrophe. There is a story by the name of World Gig of Life. In that story, you can find a lot of examples for this rule. And the next rule in spoken English is elision of vowels. As we mentioned before, that in spoken rules, sometimes you have additions and sometimes you have omissions. Before we mentioned in the first rule that t is added, and sometimes replaced, ch is replaced to sh, and sometimes we have omission. So now we talk about omission of vowels and omission of consonants. First, elision of vowels. When can we elide vowels? And of course, not every vowel. If unstressed a or a follows a stressed syllable, it is left out. Usually, we can elide these two vowels, a and a sound or a sound. Sometimes we can elide, we can leave out these two vowels, but not all the time, of course. They can be elided if there is no stress in the syllable where this one of these sounds is used, but the previous syllable is stressed. Whenever we have a or a sound in unstressed syllable. By the way, a is always in unstressed syllables. It never appears in a stressed syllable. There is never stress on schwa sound. But also a, it is sometimes stressed or sometimes not. But whenever these two sounds come in unstressed syllables and the previous syllable is stressed, then we can leave them out. For example for a sound. Like in the word medicine, we can pronounce medicine. Medicine, for example, medicine. The word medicine. Okay, see, medicine, 3 syllables. Medicine. The second syllable has a sound, and there is no stress in this syllable. But the previous syllable has stress, me. So we can elide this a. And instead of medicine, we can pronounce medicine. Medicine. And these elisions appear or happen for ease in speaking, so that we can speak easily. Another example for a schwa sound is, for example, the word envelope. 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 See, again 3 syllables. Envelope. The second syllable has schwa sound, but there is no stress. However, the previous syllable has stress, the first syllable. So we can elide this sound. And instead of envelope, we can pronounce envelope. Envelope in spoken English. Okay, this was about elision of vowel sounds. Now we have a couple of rules for elision of consonants. Sometimes we can also elide consonants. When? Let's see. The middle consonant, okay, we have 2 cases. Number 1, the middle consonant in a series of 3 consonants, and after a vowel, before a consonant is left out, if it gets difficult to pronounce. If we have vowel plus consonant plus another consonant, or we have three consecutive consonants, and the middle consonant is such a consonant which becomes difficult to pronounce, either because of appearing between the two consonants, the previous in the following consonants, or from a very different place of articulation, or if the previous sound is vowel and the following is a very different consonant, and it becomes difficult to pronounce this middle consonant, we can just leave it out. We can make it silent. For example for vowel plus consonant, like the word clothes. See, in this word we have vowel and the sound and z sound. Now pronouncing z right before z becomes difficult, because z is pronounced with the tip of tongue touching the front upper teeth, and z is pronounced with closing the teeth and the tip of tongue goes inside the mouth. Z. So pronouncing this and immediately going to this sound without having a vowel in the middle is quite difficult. See, clothes, clothes. However, for native speakers, they can pronounce it is also correct. It's not wrong. If anyone can pronounce, it is possible. But for ease, we have a second option, that is close. Make this the silent, just leave it out. Close. Pronounce it like the verb close. And another example for consonant between two consonants, three consecutive consonants, where the first one is difficult to pronounce. For example, lists or tests. When T comes between two S's, then it is also difficult. Sometimes non-native speakers pronounce it with very difficulty. And as I mentioned before, when there is no other vowel between the last consonant and the middle consonant, it becomes difficult. So what happens, non-native speakers add a vowel, which becomes mispronunciation. For example, instead of tests, some non-native speakers say testis, for example, testis, which is incorrect. So either tests, lists, or less, tests. Just make this T silent. So if we elide it, double S remains. And double S at the end gives one S sound. We had studied that before. So less, tests, also possible. Okay, that was the first rule for eliding the consonants. The second rule for eliding consonant is if t or d is used between two consonants, it is elided. Whenever these two sounds, t or d, appear between two consonants, we have consonant both before and after these two sounds. So we can just simply make it silent. For example for t sound, like restless. Restless. Again, for ease, we elide t, which appears between two consonants. So instead of restless, we say restless. Restless. And another example for d, for example, windmill. Windmill. We've got d between two consonants. Windmill. So, n, d, m. We elide d, and what remains? Windmill. Windmill. Okay, that was a little bit about spoken English rules. We also have other rules for spoken English, especially those related to connected speech, which we shall inshallah study in coming lecture, or maybe 2 more lectures, or rather I should say lectures. So that is enough for today, inshallah. Next day we will discuss connected speech.